Discover 7 spine-chilling, sinister tales that expose the haunted and cursed secrets of Reddit. The night fell heavy over Maple Grove, an innocent suburban enclave that had long deluded its residents into believing they were safe. But as 35-year-old Sarah settled into her worn couch, her heart raced with an unshakable fear. Those were no ordinary shadows creeping along her living room walls. They whispered secrets of darkness, lost children, and families consumed by despair. With her teenage daughter Lily more absorbed in her phone than the haunted echoes of their neighborhood, Sarah ventured into the eerie starlight of Reddit's horror community. Scrolling through the threads, she stumbled on the secrets buried behind closed doors. She chuckled nervously. Surely these were just exaggerated tales, mere fabrications to frighten unsuspecting readers. Strange symbols, shadowy figures in the dusk, and the shivers of missing kids danced across the screen, but Sarah brushed them off, welcoming the thrill of horror in the mundane routine of her life. Yet the shrill call of crickets outside set a brazen backdrop for the bone-chilling tales. What was it about creeping dread that felt so exhilarating? But the very next morning, something caught her eye. Dark etchings hidden amongst the weeds of her fence. They were unmistakable, those very symbols swimming in her mind from the Reddit thread. Confusion twisted through her, and a jolt of fear surged within her as she confronted her neighbors. Their averted gazes spoke volumes, secrets swirled like smoke around their tightly shut mouths. Had they all fallen victim to the horrors lurking behind closed doors? One evening, at the grocery store, heart pounding in anticipation, she heard a conversation that made her blood run cold. Two customers, oblivious to her presence, whispered about the chilling disappearance of a little Noah, a local boy missing without a trace. Nervous laughter bubbled in her throat. As she scanned their faces, she felt the chilling weight of their judgment. The world faded around her, each shivering moment dragging like an eternal dark memory. Back home, shadows loomed on her porch, slipping ominously as her hands trembled against the grocery bag. The door creaked open, each sound echoing ominously within her heart. Alone, again, she felt the unfurling panic claw at her insides. Over the next few days, the symbols multiplied and darkened. She could practically feel evil lurking, tightening its grip around her neck with invisible hands. That very evening, as she prepared dinner and yanked out her phone, another notification pinged. The thread was buzzing, exploding with posts from locals who shared their own dark truths. With each message, her skepticism melted into somber dread. She was no longer just a curious mother, she was knee-deep in a pool of terror she had foolishly ignored. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as despair weighed on her shoulders like crushing stones, Sarah realized she needed to map these symbols against the tales. Would they expose the web of darkness clinging to her neighborhood? Just then, a wild laugh erupted from Lily. It hung in the air, a jarring note of innocence that shattered the tense atmosphere. She turned, breath caught in her throat, her daughter standing before the window, staring outside with empty eyes. And just as dread cascaded, the lights flickered, shadows swirling into a chaotic dance. Rushing toward the door, she opened it to a stranger standing on her porch, eyes empty yet eager, a smile plastered across their face. That felt painfully familiar. "We're here to help," they whispered into the chilling night, whispers laced with echoes of the legends she dismissed all too easily. At that dreadful moment, Sarah understood this story was only just beginning, and the horror was yet to fully unveil itself. The stranger's words hung heavy in the air, unsettling the very foundations of Sarah's sanity. She took a cautious step backward, her breath hitching in her throat as their smile widened unnaturally. A chill ran down her spine. This was no comforting gesture. The darkness of the night seemed to close in around her, forming an unholy shroud of malevolence. "What do you mean, help?" Sarah finally forced out, her voice trembling, a hesitant dare against the encroaching fear. The figure tilted their head, a grotesque motion that sent another jolt through her. Behind them, shadows writhed like a living entity, stretching and compressing, an orchestra of dark. Maple Grove, so many secrets buried in its bones, they murmured, eyes glinting with cruel excitement. We're your guides. We help you see the unseen. Lily, now peering over Sarah's shoulder, smiled back at the stranger, blissfully unaware of the horror stitched into the night air. Mom, can we let them in? Her voice was too sweet, too innocent. Sarah's heart raced, tearing at the seams of her protective instincts. No. Lily, back away, she shouted. The grin melted from the stranger's face, replaced with a shrouded frown, the darkness behind them seeming to absorb the light, pulling it into a bottomless pit. Such fear, it's how the stories start, the stranger hissed softly. A low whisper drifted around them, pregnant with the weight of lost souls. As if in response, the shadows pressed closer, fingers of darkness beckoning at forgotten corners of her mind. Breathless with panic, Sarah slammed the door, her heart hammering cruelly against her chest. The weight of dread crashed against her, a suffocating wave of despair. What was that? She gasped, whipping around to face Lily, whose curious gaze remained fixated on the door. Mom, they said they wanted to help. They seemed nice. Lily's naivete made Sarah's gut twist. She needed to protect her, to shield her from the encroaching evil that thickened the air. That wasn't help, Lily. We don't know them. I think they know stuff. About the neighborhood. The weight of her daughter's words buried deeper into Sarah's chest, a mixture of fear and curiosity. A sudden realization lanced through her, the whispers weren't just outside her window, they crawled through her home like an insidious mist. In the hours that followed, sleep eluded her, replaced by images of shadowy figures, missing children, and ominous symbols spiraling around her in a grotesque dance. Each time she closed her eyes, the weight of Maple Grove's secrets threatened to crush her. Pacing her dimly lit living room, she pondered the symbols creeping closer. More than mere graffiti, they whispered truths buried within her neighborhood's past. Just as she turned toward Lily's room, a strange sound broke through the silence, the shrill laughter of children echoing not from the house, but from outside. It was taunting, inviting, clawing at her sense of security. The skin on her arms prickled, and she tiptoed toward the source. Swinging open the window, the night air bit into her skin, mingling with the laughter as it mingled with chilly winds. The shadows cast by the moonlight revealed forms eerily reminiscent of the etchings she'd seen, children, dancing in wild abandon, their faces pale. They beckoned her, limbs outstretched, eyes sparkling with something sinister beneath their innocence. Come play with us. They sang, voices interweaving like a twisted choir. In a moment of naivety, Sarah almost reached out, a pull towards the alluring figures that felt impossible to resist. But just as the world began to tilt toward acceptance of this horror, she recoiled, understanding far too late the weight of their invitation. Mom! What is happening? Lily's voice sliced through the hazy veil, pulling Sarah back to reality. The laughter ceased abruptly, an audible gasp echoing through the air, and the shadows recoiled, a predator thwarted. What did you see? With dread pooling in her stomach, Sarah turned, ready to protect her daughter from the darkness gnawing at every corner of their lives. I don't know. Lily's wide, fearful eyes mirrored her own growing terror. The laughter returned, a sing-song promise trailing into the depths of night, a reminder that Maple Grove was far from normal, that its very essence was tangled in fear. These secrets were only just beginning to unfurl. In that moment, Sarah's resolve hardened. She had to uncover what lurked beneath the surface. But as dread weighed on her once more, she realized, to seek the truth in Maple Grove would mean facing fears she had never imagined, and just as she braced for the revelations ahead, a rhythmic knocking echoed from her front door. The knocking grew more insistent, a heavy thud that echoed through the stillness of the house. Each bang sent jolts of electricity through Sarah's body, amplifying her dread. What if the stranger had returned? The air felt thick, oppressive, laced with a sense of impending doom. "Stay here, Lily," Sarah ordered, her voice firm yet trembling. The little girl nodded, but her eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of confusion and fear. Sarah's heart raced as she approached the door, each step a battle against the primal urge to flee. She gripped the doorknob tightly, her palms slick with sweat. Another knock, louder this time. Was it just her imagination, or did it resonate with a mocking rhythm, teasing her resolve? She hesitated, glancing back at Lily, who peered from the safety of the living room, uncertainty etched across her innocent features. "Mom, please be careful," Lily whispered, the tremor in her voice sending a sickening chill down Sarah's spine. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah yanked the door open. It swung wide, revealing nothing but the vacant darkness outside. The street lamp flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the ground like sinister specters. She squinted into the gloom, searching for any sign of life. The silence was deafening. "Hello?" She tried, her voice faltering, swallowed by the darkness. But there was no response. Only the wind, howling mournfully through the trees. And then, from somewhere deep within the night, she heard it, a faint whisper, like a taunt carried on the breeze. "Come play with us," the words wrapped around her mind, seeping into the cracks of her sanity. Memories of the children outside flooded her thoughts, echoes of their pale faces and shimmering eyes. Panic washed over her, and she slammed the door shut, locking it with trembling hands. "Mom!" Lily shouted, clearly startled. "What happened?" They're playing games outside." The sound felt warped and heavy, an unsettling truth that clung to her. "But we can't join them. It's dangerous." A soft knock drew her attention again, but this time it was coming from the living room window. The window where shadows had danced moments before. Heart racing, she turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach anew. She tiptoed to the window's edge, her mind screaming at her not to look. A figure stood beneath the flickering streetlight, cloaked in shadows. It was small, hunched, seemingly inhuman. As she leaned closer, the moon broke through the clouds, illuminating its face, a child, hollow-eyed and grinning, with a gash of a mouth stretching far too wide. "Let us play a game, don't you want to know?" The words dripped with malice, echoing in a child's sing-song voice. "Get away from here!" Sarah yelled, but instead of recoiling, the creature stepped closer, eyes glinting with a predatory hunger. It reached out a gnarled hand, beckoning her to join the madness. In the corner of her vision, Sarah saw Lily inching toward her. "Mom, who is that?" "No. Stay back." Panic twisted her voice, and she spun around to secure her daughter far from the window. But as she turned, the corners of the room blackened, a thick fog creeping along the edges, clawing at the light. Shadows morphed, forming grotesque shapes, flickering and swirling, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Sarah's pulse quickened, each beat echoing like a war drum. "Mom! What's wrong?" Lily's voice wavered, fear palpable in the air, and then, in an instant, the figure outside vanished, as if swallowed whole by the night. But the laughter remained. A chorus of children's giggles swelled from every corner of the room, echoing, taunting, filling their home with a chilling resonance that crept under Sarah's skin. Could they really be trapped here, at the mercy of Maple Grove's malevolence? "I have to find out what they want," she whispered, barely aware of her own words. As shadows danced around her, a sinister ballet of darkness, a new thought kindled in her mind. What if uncovering the truth was the only way to save Lily? But as she stood, rooted in terror, the weight of impending doom pressed against her chest, then, before she could move, the whispers grew louder, circling her like vultures. "Secrets let us show you," and in that moment, she realized with a gut-wrenching clarity, some truths are better left buried. One last flicker of light filled the room before plunging her into complete darkness. What was this place, and what secrets had it woven into the very fabric of Maple Grove? Outside, from beyond the walls, the children's laughter erupted once more, louder, more commanding. "Come play with us," but as Sarah felt the weight of their invitation, a chilling thought crossed her mind. was she already too late? The air around Sarah thickened, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Heart pounding, she gripped Lily's hand, the tiny fingers trembling in her palm. The laughter outside didn't just echo, it clawed at the walls, seeking entry, a sinister chant that seeped into her bones. "Do you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely rising above a breath. Lily nodded, wide-eyed. "They sound happy. Happy." The word tasted bitter. How could that laughter be perceived as joy? It dripped with malice, and every giggle felt like a dagger aimed at her sanity. "Mom, maybe we should play with them?" Lily suggested, a hint of longing in her tone. "No. Absolutely not." Panic surged, fueling her. If Lily were to step into that darkness, it would not be her daughter they found at the end, only a hollow shell, just like the child outside. The shadows began to morph, twisting with outstretched limbs that reached toward them, like fingers of a nightmare. In that moment, Sarah's resolve solidified. The truth. She needed the truth. They'd been taken from Maple Grove. But at what cost? "I need to find out what they are," she murmured, half to herself. "What do they want?" She turned, moving towards the hallway, every instinct screaming to run. The laughter intensified, enveloping her like a blanket. It beckoned her forward. "Mom! Please don't!" Lily cried, but her pleas felt drowned in a whirlpool of chaos. Ignoring her better judgment, Sarah approached the source of the noise. Each step plunged her deeper into the void. Shadows writhed and flickered around her like a horror movie playing in reverse. Then her foot struck something solid, something cold. She looked down. It was the remnants of a children's drawing, its crayon edges worn and faded. It depicted a house, twisted and grotesque, with a group of children standing ominously, eyes black, smiles wide. Their faces echoed the one from the window. She picked it up, her fingers brushing against the rough paper, sending another shiver ripping through her body. The ink felt alive against her skin, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Mom, what are you doing?" Lily's voice trembled, and Sarah could feel the dread radiating from her daughter. "Just a little longer, sweetheart," Sarah implored, her own fear twisting into determination. She had to push through. Her thoughts raced. What were these children? Why did they keep calling out? Suddenly, a loud crash startled them. The living room door flew open, revealing a vortex of dark mist swirling like a storm. From within, a glowing ember of light shone, illuminating the canopy of silhouettes lurking behind, their features blurring, shifting in and out of focus. "Join us!" they moaned, their voices merging into a chilling harmony. Instinctively, Sarah pulled Lily closer, shielding her from the impending doom. "We can't go out there, Lily. We have to find a way to." Before she could finish, the surge of the dark mist extended toward them, tendrils reaching out like grasping claws. "Mom!" Lily squeaked, trying to evade their grip. Every shadow seemed to tighten, choking the air, drowning out her frantic thoughts. "No. Stay with me." Just as Sarah felt the tendrils curl around her ankle, yanking her into the spiraling darkness, a blinding light erupted from within the house, casting the shadows back momentarily. The entity outside recoiled. Amidst the tumult, Sarah turned back to Lily, her heart racing. "We have to decide. Now. Should they fight against the shadows or give in to the lure?" Her mind raced with a terrifying question that simmered, begging for attention. Was saving Lily worth exposing them both to whatever malevolence lurked in the unknown? As the laughter transformed into a wailing chorus, echoing around her, everything went momentarily silent. Time stopped. "Choose," the whispers threatened in the stillness. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on her chest. Would she forsake their safety for the answers relentlessly pulling at her? And just moments before the mist closed in, locking them in its grasp, Sarah felt a strange flicker of hope. "Lily," she breathed, "we need to find out how to escape." But as they stood on the precipice, confronted by the unknown, the question loomed larger. What price would they pay for the knowledge they sought? In the shadows, the laughter resumed, waiting, watching, hungry for their choice. The darkness clawed at Sarah, whispering promises thick as fog. The moment hung heavy, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown. She could sense Lily's terror. It lit her insides with a fire she couldn't ignore. But hope flickered in her mind, urging her to fight. "Mom, please!" Lily cried, her voice breaking through the suffocating silence. "I don't want to go." With resolute cruelty, the shadows pressed closer. "Join us," they chanted, a chorus of sickly sweet voices, unspeakably human and yet terribly wrong. The light within the house flickered and sputtered, a dying candle that brought little comfort. "Stay strong, Lily," Sarah said, forcing her voice steady. "We need to get out of here. We have to find a way." But her mind spiraled with fear. The window. The front door. The thought of breaking through was suffocated by doubt. What lay beyond those thresholds? Were the outside kids truly free, or did they serve another dark purpose? "Look!" Lily pointed toward the wall. A large mirror hung there, cracked and warped, reflecting their terrified faces. But behind them, the shadows danced, forming grotesque shapes that squirmed and writhed like slugs in the dark. For an instant, Sarah's breath hitched. In the mirror, she saw not just the tendrils reaching at them, but fleeting images, the happy faces of children, bright-eyed and smiling, standing outside just moments before. Her gut twisted. What if they're not trapped? She thought. What if they're just like the others? The laughter morphed into a low, rumbling growl, and the shadows surged forward again, desperate for their prize. "Mom! We can't hold on, Lily!" Sarah yelled, her desperation turning into raw energy. She yanked on the drawing she still clutched, the image of the grotesque house almost pulsing as if it possessed a will of its own. "Listen," she said, trying to determine how to turn their fate. They had to confront the drawing, the way it seemed to beckon them. They had to piece together its meaning. What if the key is here? As if in response, the shadows snapped to attention, convergence on her like a predatory animal sensing weakness. Lily trembled, her tiny body shaking with terror. "What do we do?" "I don't know. But standing here won't help," Sarah snapped, feeling the tendrils curling dangerously close. The atmosphere crackled with disbelief. Images swirled, memories of Maple Grove flashing through her mind, children laughing, innocent games, and then everything shattering into fear and uncertainty. She had to act. "Lily! The drawing!" she commanded. "It's our guide." With an unyielding grip, she moved closer to the wall, the mirror reflecting the calamity, just as the laughter grew insatiably louder. Every echo twisted, threatening to pull both of them into that void. Summoning every ounce of strength, she pressed the drawing against the mirror. The shadows hissed, recoiling. Sarah gasped as the ink-alive drawing started glowing, warmth radiating like sunlight. The laughter fell silent, replaced by haunting chants, desperate and simmering with anger. "Mom, it's working!" Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining with hope. "Stay close." As the tones rose higher, the mirror began to ripple like disturbed water. Sarah felt the vibrations through her bones. But then they stopped. The images frozen, and the mirror darkened. A long, sorrowful wail surged through the room, echoing their fear back to them. "No!" Sarah yelled, filled with determination. "We want to become part of this." Before the shadows could proliferate again, she pushed into the mirror. The surface shimmied beneath her fingers, warping the edges of reality. Suddenly, the laughter returned, doubled and magnified, but this time mixed with piercing shrieks. Children's voices turned to screams, the surface of the mirror churning violently. Startled, she looked back at Lily, who looked both terrified and mesmerized. "Whatever is on the other side, we have to confront it," Sarah said, her voice shaking but fierce. With a final surge, they plunged forward together, into the swirling chaos of glass and shadow, desperate for answers or escape. As soon as they entered, an overwhelming rush engulfed them, shrouding their senses, drowning every instinct to turn back. Then silence. Sarah blinked, and when her vision cleared, she was no longer in their living room. Instead, they stood in a darkened forest, where shadows whispered secrets in rustling leaves. What had they entered? And what awaited them in this new realm, where laughter echoed with an ominous ring so familiar yet so horrifying? A pulse of dread surged through her, a terrifying sense that this was only the beginning. The air was thick with a heavy mist, swirling like ghosts around them. Every leaf crackled underfoot, sharp whispers spiraled into the void, and Sarah felt her heart pounding like a war drum. She turned, her breath hitching at the sight of Lily, who stood frozen, eyes wide and shimmering with tears. "Where are we?" Lily stammered, clutching Sarah's hand as if it were a lifeline. It felt cold and clammy instead of warm as it normally did. This place, whatever it was, seeped into their skin, pulling at their very essence. "Just, stay close," Sarah managed, fear rising like bile in her throat. The forest stretched endlessly around them, shadows weaving between the trees, making them seem alive. Was it the same darkness from the house? "Mom, the shadows," Lily whispered, pointing with trembling fingers. They moved, shifting and swirling, as if they were alive, feasting on the air, the uncertainty. An overwhelming chill wrapped around Sarah. "We need to move," she said, forcing her legs into motion. Each step felt like a plunge into an abyss, the ground wobbly beneath her. But where could they go? Every direction seemed to lead deeper into blackness. As they walked, the rustling leaves morphed into the haunting laughter they had heard before. It echoed among the trees, calling out, taunting them. There was familiarity in it, a sickening recognition, laughter from before the nightmares began. "Mom," Lily said, her voice trembling as shadows darted just out of sight. "What if this is where the others are? What if—" "Don't think like that," Sarah interrupted, panic igniting in her chest. "We will find a way back. We just need to be brave." She gripped Lily's hand tighter, pushing down the rising dread that clawed at her insides, desperately trying to cling to hope. Suddenly, the laughter halted, replaced by silence so thick it pressed against her ears. Then, a weak whimper drifted toward them, drifting between the trees like a lost spirit. Sarah's breath caught. It was unmistakable, the sound of a child in distress. She turned to Lily, her eyes wide with concern. "Do you hear that?" Sarah asked, feeling a surge of determination. Lily nodded, though her face paled. "We should let us just check it out," Sarah interrupted, fueled by an instinct she couldn't quite understand. They were not just fleeing anymore, they were called to face whatever lay ahead. They moved cautiously through the shadows, stepping closer to the source of the whimpering. The mist thickened around them, swallowing every glimmer of light, creating a cocoon of trepidation. "Mom," Lily's whisper broke again, the dread weighing down her voice. Sarah's gut twisted as they neared a clearing, where the trees opened up to reveal a small, unkempt children's playground. The swings creaked softly, moving as if touched by invisible hands. A thick fog shrouded the area, making it hard to see. "Help me!" a broken voice cried, raw and choked. They peered into the murky mist toward the sound. "Did you hear that?" Sarah gasped. Lily shook her head, her eyes darting nervously. "It's a trap, Mom. It sounds wrong." A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. The voice held a twisted familiarity, a call for help that felt so real yet felt wrong, as if it were hollow. "Stay behind me," Sarah commanded, inching forward. Each step felt as if she stood on the brink of a precipice. As they stepped closer, the faint outline of a child appeared through the fog, a little girl, her silhouette still yet trembling. Shadows loomed around her like vultures circling prey, their intentions masked behind laughter that now echoed more sinister. "Please, I'm lost," the girl whispered, her face hidden by the vapor, but the gleam of her eyes glimmered in the dim light. Desperate, pleading, Sarah reached out instinctively, heart racing. "We're here. We'll help you." But before she could take a step further, a deep growl resonated from the trees. "Join us," the shadows hissed, their voices merging into a cacophony of menace. Panic surged as the playground warped around them, shifting like the mirror before, and Sarah realized with horror that this was all part of the trap, another game set by the darkness. "Run!" she screamed, staring into the encroaching shadows, realizing they were not playing around this time. As they turned to flee, the laughter returned, more echoing than ever, chasing them into the depths of the forest where the shadows hung thick and menacing. What lay behind them, hidden in the wings of this haunted playground? And how could they escape? The laughter slowly rising behind them, a relentless reminder that they were not alone and that the darkness wanted them both. The oppressive air felt thicker now, as if the fog itself was trying to grasp them, to pull them back. Sarah's heart raced, pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. She glanced down at Lily. Her daughter was gripped with wide-eyed terror, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah's resolve faltered. "Just keep running," she urged, tightening her hold on Lily's clammy hand. The laughter grew more frantic, echoing off the trees, malicious and unyielding. Each step crunched against brittle leaves and twigs, the sound swallowed by the sinister atmosphere. Through the trees, figures danced at the edges of her vision, darting away whenever she turned her head. Were they real? Or merely illusions, conjured by the dark? Images of the playground haunted her mind, thoughts of the trapped child pulsing against her consciousness like a flashing alarm. "Mom, they're coming!" Lily cried, pulling at her with all the strength she could muster. "We have to find a way out," Sarah shouted back, desperation tightening her throat. The trees seemed to close in around them, branches reaching like skeletal fingers, blocking their path. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and with a sudden burst of energy, Sarah spotted a dim light glimmering in the distance, an ethereal glow that beckoned like a lighthouse through the storm. "There! We can make it!" she urged, dragging Lily along with her as they veered toward the flickering beacon. As they sprinted, the laughter intensified, blending with whispers, taunting them, spinning tales of lost souls and doomed fates. The trees were no longer the silent sentinels they appeared to be, they seemed alive, breathing, their bark twisting like faces in agony, mouths forming words they couldn't comprehend. Just as the flicker of light grew stronger, Sarah felt a shift in the air. It seemed to pulse, warm and inviting. She felt the weight of dread begin to lift. "We're close." She pushed through the branches, scratching against her skin, ignoring the streaks of warmth they left in their wake. Then, with a sudden flicker, the light surged. It erupted from what appeared to be a dilapidated cabin, its windows glowing like a beacon. The inviting warmth washed over them as they rushed through the door, collapsing inside. The cabin was eerily silent, far too calm for the chaos they had just escaped. The glow emanated from an old lantern on a rickety table, dust particles swirling lazily in the air like tiny stars. But something was wrong. "Mom, what is that?" Lily whispered, pointing toward the corners, where shadows seemed to pool. "Stay close," Sarah urged again. The air inside felt different, tinged with the smell of something rotten. A chilling realization hit her. What if they weren't safe at all? "Help me," the child's voice echoed again, now unmistakably close, filling the air with desperation. It came from deeper within the cabin, from a doorway at the back, shrouded in darkness. "Lily," Sarah knelt down, placing her hands on her daughter's trembling shoulders. "We need to turn back this place." Before she could finish, the door creaked open, releasing an icy gust that sent a shiver through the cabin. A figure stood in the entrance, a silhouette of a child, face obscured by shadows and fog. "Please, I'm waiting," it whispered, its voice now a haunting echo that inserted itself deep into Sarah's bones. Panic surged again, but this time it was not just fear, it was the overwhelming urge to help, to save whoever stood there, trapped like they had been. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. "We can't leave her." But as they edged closer, the shadows writhed around the figure, morphing into shapes that clawed desperately at the edges of the light. Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, only now it felt different, more primal, more insistent. Join us, they chanted, the walls of the cabin vibrating with their sinister chorus. Sarah turned to Lily, dread pooling in her stomach. What if this was another trap? What if the darkness had followed them here, and as the shadows began to contort, closing in around them, Sarah felt a chill wrap around her heart. What awaited them in the depths of the cabin? Would they find a way to help the child, or would they become yet another tale whispered about in the fog? The shadows began to surge with intensity, morphing into swirling shapes, twisting and reaching toward Sarah and Lily. The child's silhouette loomed larger, its form becoming clearer, yet the darkness around it pulsed with a life of its own, seeking to entrap anything it touched. "Mom!" Lily shrieked, pulling back, her eyes wide with horror. "I know. Just hold on," Sarah cried, unwilling to let her daughter retreat into that claustrophobic darkness. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet she felt their lives hanging in the balance, tethered to the fragile hope of saving another child. "Please," the figure's voice tugged at her heartstrings, a raw plea for rescue that sent icy fingers tiptoeing across her skin. "Help me, I'm trapped." Before Sarah could grapple with the weight of that request, the room trembled again, as if the cabin itself were growling in response. A deafening crash outside echoed through the trees, shaking branches and sending a blast of icy air swirling into the room that extinguished the lantern's glow. "Mom! It's dark. I can't see." Lily cried, her voice frantic, a raw wail of terror that pierced Sarah's resolve. She reached for her daughter, grasping her hand tightly in fear of losing her in the pitch-black cabin. "Stay with me," she whispered fiercely, but her heart was racing, panic constricting her throat. The shadows pressed tighter, writhing in hunger, their forms blending with the darkness. "Join us," the shadows hissed, their malevolence thickening like a fog that hung in the air. The whispers filled the cabin, slithering into her ears, echoing her own thoughts back at her. What if this was a trap? What if helping brought them nothing but doom? "Please!" The child's voice repeated, raw and filled with torment, barely a breath away. An icy chill crept across Sarah's skin. What if the child wasn't trapped, but was a lure crafted from despair? Would they join those spirits trapped within the cabin, sharing their plight forever? "Mom, let us go!" Lily whimpered, tugging harder, a small warrior in a world oversaturated with fear. But Sarah's feet felt glued to the ground. She was caught between the instinct to flee and the aching need to help. How could she abandon another child? She stepped forward, toward the doorway, drawn like a moth to the flame. A shrieking, cacophonous wail erupted outside, as if every tortured soul had let out its agony at once. The walls shook violently, dust raining down in thick clumps, splattering across their faces. Panic surged like wildfire, and Sarah felt the suffocating weight of dread. The lantern flickered back to life, casting feeble shadows that twisted gruesomely around them. "Mom!" Lily's voice trembled, but it was her grip that hardened, pulling Sarah back. The tiny body stood firm, a courageous beacon in a sea of uncertainty. Then, another crash shattered through the cabin, the wooden door now buckling under an otherworldly pressure. The child's silhouette shifted, eyes flickering like fragile stars, desperation emanating from it in waves. "Help me before it comes." The walls seemed to pulse, the shadows howling, and in that moment, Sarah took a step backward, torn between dread and a desperate need for survival. "What if," she whispered, the warmth of hope fleeing with the darkness, "this is not just a soul we have to save?" As they edged away toward the door, heavy breathing filled the silence, a sound they could not recognize. The laughter outside began to dissolve into screams, a symphony of horror as something unnamable barreled toward them. The tension snapped, and Sarah turned, pulling Lily toward the only escape. They pushed through the door, not looking back, but the scream echoed behind them, lingering in the air like smoke. What shadow loomed beyond the threshold? Was their escape merely the beginning of another nightmare? As they stumbled into the fog, the laughter began anew, this time closer, wrapping around them like a noose. The air was thick with dread as Sarah and Lily plunged into the dense fog outside the cabin, each breath a struggle against the crushing weight of fear. Silvery tendrils wound through the underbrush, obscuring their path as they hurried away from the nightmare left behind. The laughter morphed into dissonant whispers, curling through the trees like a serpent stalking its prey. "Where do we go, Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled, clinging to innocence amid the terror. Just keep moving," Sarah urged, her own heart hammering in her chest. Panic twined around her mind, squeezing tighter with every step. The forest loomed, twisting branches clawing at the shadows, an enemy turned ally in their desperate flight. But where could they possibly hide from the malevolence that pursued them? Behind them, the cabin's silhouette faded into the encroaching gloom. Yet the shadows felt alive, pulsing just beyond their line of sight, glowing ominously with malicious intention. The air echoed with a chorus of laughter and sobbing, a cacophony that clawed at Sarah's sanity. Suddenly, a flurry of movement caught her eye. Shapes darted between the trees, flickering in and out of view glimpses of pale, hollow eyes, moments of fleeting terror that made her blood run cold. "Mom!" Lily pulled at her sleeve, panic coating her voice. "They're coming!" With terror igniting her instincts, Sarah sprinted forward, Lily's small hand tugging desperately behind her. Each step felt like running through molasses, the ground sticky with fear, the fog wrapping tighter around them. They couldn't outrun what wasn't bound to the rules of the world. Just keep your eyes on me," Sarah gasped, trying to keep the rising dread at bay. She could feel the unseen eyes on them, the shadows watching, waiting, hungry for their moment. Then, she heard the soft patter of tiny feet joining them, the growing sound of breath. An echo of a child's laughter melted into sobs, only to morph back into that haunting wail they left behind in the cabin. It came from all directions now, disorienting and cruel, as if the forest itself tormented them, not wanting them to find escape. "Mommy, please!" Lily screamed, her voice raw. Without thinking, Sarah yanked Lily closer, heart pounding. They veered off the main path, pursuing a faint trail that wound deeper into the woods. The whispers transformed into mocking giggles, echoing through the trees, shaking Sarah's resolve. As they stumbled into a clearing, the fog thinned momentarily, revealing a dark, gnarled tree at its center. It stood like a sentry, branches twisted like skeletal fingers clawing up at the moonless sky. The laughter crescendoed again, circling them, pressing in until it suffocated the air. "Look!" Lily pointed, wide-eyed. A doll lay beneath the tree, worn and dirty, its eyes eerily bright even in the dim light. "Don't touch it!" Sarah snapped, a rush of panic flooding her senses. But before she could usher Lily away, a soft, pleading voice reverberated within the clearing. "Help me!" As if entranced, Lily took a step forward. "No! Lily!" But it was too late. The moment Lily reached for the doll, a shrill scream pierced the air. The shadows thickened around them, surging like a tide. They were not alone. Figures emerged, faces twisted and forlorn, eyes yearning, yet sinister. "Help me!" they chanted, a haunting symphony intertwining with the laughter, melding dread with desperation. Sarah yanked Lily back, heart racing as terror enveloped them both. The shadows shivered, hungry, awaiting their next move, like wolves gathering at dusk. What did they really want? Was this truly the end, or only the start of something far more sinister? The shadows twitched and moved, and Sarah braced herself for the abyss awaiting them. Where could they possibly run next? The forest had teeth and it wasn't finished with them yet. The shadows twisted, swirling around the twisted tree like a cyclone of despair. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as dread seeped into her soul. "Stay close, Lily!" she shouted, pulling her daughter protectively against her side. The suffocating darkness pulsed with life, whispering promises woven in malice and fear. It revealed the sins of Maple Grove, laid bare before them, waiting for the moment when they could ensnare their next victims. Lily's breath trembled against Sarah's shoulder. "What do they want, Mom?" The fear in her eyes mirrored the wild panic crackling through Sarah's veins. "They're calling for help," she replied, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. "But I don't think it's real. We can't trust them." Through the thick fog, shadows morphed into grotesque figures, their anguished faces only just discernible within the dark. Each expression echoed a tragic tale, children longing for a savior, trapped in a nightmare of their own making. Sarah's eyes darkened as she met their gaze. "We need to uncover the truth. It's the only way." An instinct surged within her. "It's not just about escaping. We have to put an end to this." "Mom, no. Please." Lily shrieked, gripping Sarah's arm like a vice. But Sarah took a step forward despite her daughter's pleas, fueled by a fierce determination. Could this shadowy dance of despair truly swallow them whole? "I have to know," she called out, pushing away the fear as she squeezed the drawing tightly. "Help me." The shadows wailed, the sorrow weaving through their voices. Their call pulled like a magnetic force, drawing Sarah deeper into the darkness, yet each step felt like walking on a taut wire. The laughter twisted to piercing wails, the cries of lost souls blending into an anguished cacophony transcending the fabric of night. "Mom!" Lily's voice surged over the chaos, bringing Sarah back as panic etched deeper into her heart. "Don't. We need to go." Before Sarah could answer, the shadows surged forward, hungry, grasping toward them like skeletal hands. "Help us, free us," they begged, then gnashed their teeth, morphing into grotesque faces, hungry for their fear, amplifying it to pure terror. "Lily, quick! We need to find a way out," Sarah shouted. She glanced behind them to see their escape path vanishing beneath a tide of darkness, the ground beneath them pulsing like the beating heart of something monstrous. Then, Sarah spotted movement atop the gnarled branches of the tree. A figure, small and fragile, appeared, swaying eerily like a marionette. "Please, play with me. I'm lonely." It crooned, head tilting, eyes sunken, teasing the edge of childhood innocence wrapped in terror. Terror seized Sarah. That can't be real, Lily." Sarah forced her feet to hold steady, thrusting herself toward the twisted tree. "We're confronting this together. Stay by my side." With that, they plunged past the tree and felt a rush of air engulf them. In a swirl of sound and fury, distorted laughter transformed into anguished cries. They spilled deeper into the heart of darkness, the very essence of Maple Grove. Every step they took resonated like a drumbeat, igniting the shadows, sending them spiraling into a frenzy. "Mom, look out!" Lily screamed as claws of darkness lunged toward them. Sarah yanked her daughter back just as a twisted figure grazed her arm, ice burning in its wake. The entity encircled them, shadows writhing, ready to cocoon them forever. In that frozen moment, a flicker of light burst to life within her grasp. The drawing pulsed, urging them on, guiding them. "We need to believe," Sarah shouted, grasping Lily's hand and pushing them toward the near edge of the clearing. "We're not part of this darkness. We're stronger together." An explosion of light erupted from the drawing, splintering the shadows like glass, igniting a blinding radiance that chased the malevolence away. Every wailing cry fell silent as the light cut through despair, illuminating vacant faces momentarily frozen in place while they transformed, revealing figures not made of malevolence, but sorrow. The child figure, once obscured by shadows, now stood clear in the light. "Thank you," it whispered, a soft, sweet sound that weighed heavy with meaning. "You're free." Find the others. Suddenly, the world around them shifted like sand beneath a wave. The chaotic shadows faded slowly, revealing a long-forgotten playground, a sanctuary from the sinister truth they had endured. Children's laughter bubbled up, bright and pure in the sunlight pouring through. Sarah blinked, looking at everything, feeling overwhelmed with an echo of hope. Did we do it?" Lily asked, her voice laced with wonder and disbelief. For the first time in so long, Sarah felt the weight of fear unwind from her chest. "I think we did. We found the heart of it all. And now, they're free." She looked back at the fading shadows of despair and smiled. "We must share this truth. We need to let the world know." They turned, hand in hand, stepping out of the haunting memories. No longer terrified, but empowered. Maple Grove's secrets wouldn't remain buried for long. "Let us go home, sweetheart," Sarah murmured, the warmth of the sun enveloping them. She felt light, the burden of despair fraying like a long-forgotten knot. Together, they stepped toward the horizon bubbling with hope, ready to embrace the dawn, but as they walked, a chill ran down Sarah's spine, a lingering sensation that the echoes of Maple Grove would not stay silent for long. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is your moment to show your support. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this shocking conclusion. Grab your friends and instantly share this video with at least 5 people who need to see this ending. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.